How's everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and we are here for Fantasy Football Friday. You'll probably be seeing this on Saturday morning. I'm sorry, I was in town like an hour away from where I live, so yeah, I really wasn't here to record. Here I am Friday night, just trying to get it in real quick. But we're going to be doing the Fantasy Football Friday, and how I do it, it's based on my 12-man league. It's a points per reception scoring system, so 1 point per catch per reception. So a 12-man PPR scoring system, and this isn't necessarily going to be the best player to start. It's going to be a guy who I think you should consider starting because I like the matchup. So it's not necessarily going to be the best player. Okay, I could have done that. It would have been super easy, but nah, I don't like to do stuff like that. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I try not to keep the guys that you sit and the guys that you start super repetitive, so I try to mix it up as well. So hopefully you guys appreciate that. But at quarterback, the guy that I will be going with as the guy to start is Jameis Winston. I would put him in as your stardom. He's facing the New York Giants, and all I'm going to say is Josh Allen had a killer performance last week, and Dak Prescott the week before. You mean to tell me Jameis Winston at home can't at least be a competent starting quarterback for a fantasy football team? I would have to disagree. I think he could be, at the very least, a competent starting quarterback. Going up against the New York Giants, one of the worst pass defenses early on in the season, not named the Miami Dolphins. Jameis Winston, needs to be a little bit more consistent if he wants to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a fighting chance. I mean, they're technically in first place of their division. So with Chris Godwin coming off a huge game, with Mike Evans not necessarily getting involved, with O.J. Howard basically suiting up and not doing jack shit over the last couple of weeks, I feel like this has to be the game against the New York Giants in your stadium where you go off against the defense that really isn't that good. So going out on a limb for the stardom. Hopefully the dude can ball out against the defense that has allowed some pretty good scores for some quarterbacks. But for the running back position, we are going to go to the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm going to say start Marlon Mack against the Atlanta Falcons. We saw how Atlanta looked against a physical run-blocking offensive line in Minnesota. They didn't do so well, okay? But yes, they did go up against Philadelphia last week at home. They did have the crowd behind them, and it was one of those games where for Philadelphia it was a trap game because the Falcons are at home. We know their defense can fly around. We know they're fast. But up front, I don't really respect the Falcons outside of Grady Jarrett. I mean, Takk McKinley's a pretty good player. He's just got to be consistent. But outside of Grady Jarrett, I don't really see a threat to hold Marlon Mack. Maybe I'm wrong, but the Colts offensive line is pretty physical in the run game. Ask every guy that's been pancaked by Quentin Nelson. Marlon Mack would be my starting running back. And my RB2... we have to go to the Buffalo Bills because it's going to be Frank Gore. That's right, Devin Singletary going to miss the game, unfortunately, with a hamstring injury. I just went out and traded for him as well. It kind of sucks, but Frank Gore is going to be getting the workload, the 36-year-old running back. He's going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who, if you watch the 49ers game, they gave up a ton of rushing touchdowns, a ton of rushing yards as well. And in a PPR league, maybe Frank Gore gets a little screen action, or maybe TJ Yeldon gets more involved, but Frank Gore definitely a guy to look out for. I know that he's on the older side, and you wouldn't expect him to have a great performance, but I like the matchup, and no Devin Singletary to threaten any carries. I think Frank Gore is going to have a pretty good game, and it could be a coming out party for him in his career. At wide receiver, though, wide receiver number 1, we're going to go with Stephon Diggs going up against the Oakland Raiders. I don't really respect the Raiders secondary like that, and honestly, the Vikings receiving corps didn't have a great week, and it didn't help that Kirk Cousins really didn't play his best football either. So I think Stephon Diggs comes out here, bounces back against the Oakland Raiders at home as well. Minnesota is at home for this one. And at wide receiver number 2, I am going to have to go to the New England Patriots, and I am going to have to go with Julian Edelman. Now, they are going up against the New York Jets as a division rival, and, he lines up in the slot, so he's going to be seeing a lot of Brian Poole. But it is a home game, and we know Julian Edelman typically gets more touches at home than he does on the road. So I think Julian Edelman's going to be fine. I think this is an easy start for anybody who's trying to throw in a starting wide receiver for fantasy. At tight end, though, we are going to go to Baltimore because this guy has been on fire. Mark Andrews going up against Kansas City. They don't have the best of middle linebackers, and I think this will be a good matchup for Mark Andrews, who is a pretty fast tight end as well. Sneaky athletic. Big target for Lamar Jackson, 6'5", 250 pounds. He's going to have himself a day against Kansas City. He's had at least 7 or more catches in the first 2 games. I think he could at least get you 6 catches in this one. If he gets a touchdown or not, I'm not sure. But Mark Andrews is definitely going to have himself a pretty good game. I can feel it. For the flex spot, we are going to go with a running back this week, and this is pretty easy. He's been the best fantasy football running back, Austin Eckler. He just scores all the points, man. Austin Eckler has been terrific in fantasy football. I mean, it's been absurd. He's just been a tank. He has been a beast. In the absence of Melvin Gordon, which hurts his value a little bit, Eckler has been balling. And now when it comes to the defense, we are going to go with the Cowboys defense, and of course it's led by Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch. And then, of course, you can't forget DeMarcus Lawrence, and then, of course, at corner, my guy from UConn, Byron Jones. Now, they are playing the Miami Dolphins. I expect them to wreak havoc on Josh Rosen. The fact that Miami is even throwing Josh Rosen out there, I mean, that's what you call damaged goods. If he gets hurt in this game and he does not play well, you hurt his confidence, you hurt the morale of the team because you know they're tanking, and you threw the young guy out there to potentially get hurt. It's a lose-lose. So let Dallas feast on Josh Rosen for all I care. And then at the kicker position, I went with Brett Maher. I just feel like Dallas is going to score a shit ton of points. Nothing more needs to be said. Now for my sit-ems, we are going to go with a quarterback that's, he's been playing pretty well this year, and that's Case Keenum. I mean, Case Keenum is a good bridge quarterback. He's a great backup, a pretty decent below average starter, but he's fine. He's a game manager. He's gonna, not lose you the game, but he's also not gonna win you the game either. He just kind of does his job. But you're going up against the Chicago Bears defense. I mean, any quarterback that faces them, best of luck. At running back number 1 for the sit-em category, we are going to go to Philadelphia, and we are going to go with Jordan Howard. I don't like the matchup. He's not one of these shiftier running backs. He's not really a guy who is going to burn anyone down the field with his electric elite speed. He's more of a power back, which is fine, but you're going up against a physical Detroit Lions front 7 who, I mean, they're going to stack the box on Jordan Howard. No Deshaun Jackson, no Alshon Jeffrey in this game. It's Nelson Aguilar and Zach Ertz. If Jordan Howard can't get it going, tough shit, because Detroit's a pretty tough matchup. But the second running back on my sit-ems list is going to be Peyton Barber, going up against the Giants. The Giants have been a pretty good run defense throughout the season. Now, I know Buffalo ate them alive last week, but Zeke in limited carries didn't do too bad. But listen, the Bills as a team run the football pretty well. Ezekiel Elliott, arguably the best back in football. Peyton Barber is not sniffing either class, so it doesn't matter. Don't throw him in there. At wide receiver, we are going to go to the New York Jets, and it's going to be Robbie Anderson for my sit-em this week. I think Luke Falk could potentially have a decent performance, but Robbie Anderson plays on the outside. So, I mean, Jamison Crowder is going to get a lot of looks in the slot, so it just doesn't matter. I don't think Robbie Anderson's going to have that big of a game against New England. And at wide receiver 2, we are going to go to Oakland, wherever they're at, and we're going to take a look at Tyrell Williams going up against the Minnesota Vikings defense, who, of course, got their shit together after that first quarter that Green Bay displayed. They were able to tighten up a little bit through different looks at Devontae Adams and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Tyrell's a bigger receiver. He could see a lot of Javon Curse. Or what's that DB's name? Actually, I'm going to look it up real quick. I want to see the name of that DB for the Vikings. Javon Curse. Javon Curse is the defensive end, of course, for the Titans, who's a Titans Hall of Famer, I'm pretty sure, and an NFL Hall of Famer. could be wrong there, but Tyrell Williams could see a lot of Curse. Could see some Xavier Rhodes here and there. I just don't like this matchup. I've been putting Tyrell Williams in my stardoms lineup for a little bit. I would sit him this week. At tight end, though, we are going to get to that position right now. At tight end, I'm not playing Trey Burton. He just hasn't shown me anything. He hasn't played that good either, so definitely an easy decision. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I thought Mitchell Trubisky would like this guy to be his top target. You know, like, he's a tight end, a bigger, or not necessarily a big body compared to the other tight ends. Like, Adam Shaheem's 6'6". I mean, but he's 6'2". You know, he's a pretty solid blocker, you know, and a good receiving tight end. You know, a little bit overrated, but I thought Trubisky would be looking his way, but Washington in the front seven, their linebackers aren't too bad either. I don't really like the matchup per se. At the flex position, this time we're going to go with a wide receiver. Due to unfortunate circumstances, it's really not his fault, but Curtis Samuel is my sit-em at the slot, at the flex position. He's a pretty good player. I mean, he's really starting to burst onto the scene. They are facing the Arizona Cardinals, but my main concern is the fact that Cam Newton's not playing. It's Kyle Allen, and I haven't really seen much of Kyle Allen. I haven't really seen a whole lot of his tape to really, you know, have a judgment of what he likes to do, what his tendencies are. So I don't know if Curtis Samuel will be that involved or not. So I feel like they're just going to lean heavy on Christian McCaffrey and Greg Olsen. You know, like, it could be a rough week for the wide receivers. That's why I put Curtis Samuel here. Also because he had a great performance, and without Cam Newton this week, unlike last week, I don't really see him repeating. For the defense, we are going to go to the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they're facing Kansas City. What the hell do you want them to do? It's a great defense. They may even force a turnover, but when it's all said and done, they're going to give up a ton of points. I mean, Kansas City can score 30 on just about every defense except for maybe a couple, but this is one where I think Kansas City can crack 30. Even though I really like this Baltimore defense, still, I think this is the one that they can crack 30 on. And then, of course, the Saints, Will Lutz, the kicker that I'm sitting. They're going into Seattle, but Teddy Bridgewater's their starting quarterback. I don't know what the offense, like, I don't know how productive they'll be with Teddy Bridgewater. You don't have to change the offense much going from Drew Brees to him, so that's a plus, but obviously he's no Drew Brees, or else he wouldn't be his backup. So yeah, you're kind of screwed there. But there's your Fantasy Football Friday video, your stardoms and your sit-ems. So the starting lineup, of course, that I would rock out with: Jameis Winston at quarterback, Marlon Mack and Frank Gore as my running backs, Stephon Diggs and Julian Edelman as my wide receivers, Mark Andrews as the tight end. My flex would be Austin Eckler, and then I'm starting Dallas's defense and Brett Maher. Those are the matchups I like for the stardoms. For the sit-ems, I'm going to go with Case Keenum at quarterback, Jordan Howard and Peyton Barber are the running backs, Robbie Anderson and Tyrell Williams are the wide receivers. Trey Burton is rocking it out at tight end. My flex is Curtis Samuel. The Baltimore defense and Will Lutz is a part of my sit-ems lineup. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Best of luck in fantasy football. I'm attempting to do something I've never done before, and that's go 3-0 to start my fantasy football season. For some reason, it just doesn't happen. Hopefully I can break that trend today or this weekend, I guess. But peace out, guys.